Each path and eon in Star Rail typically has a faction or two that follow them. Elation has the Masked Fools, Erudition has the Genius Society, and for Remembrance, it's the Garden of Recollection. While most of the members in each faction believe and follow pretty much the same thing, there are those that are considered to be on the more extreme side. Individuals who are fanatics or overzealous devotees who pervert the faction's goals and objectives based on their own twisted understanding of it. At the end of the 3.2 story, we are given hints of such a sub-faction existing within the Garden of Recollection. Not only are these individuals interested in Amphoreus, but they might also be the reason behind March 7's current condition. So who are these extremists? What do they want? And what does this mean for the story overall? That's what I'll be discussing in this video. Before we get into that, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. As with most lore or theory videos, this one will have major spoilers, especially for the 3.2 main story. So if you haven't cleared it yet, consider this your obligatory spoiler warning. At the very end of 3.2, we finally get an update on the current state of March 7th. Simply put, Himeko is largely unsure of what is actually happening, and in order to understand the situation better, she seeks help from Black Swan. While Black Swan cannot be 100% sure, she suspects that March has had her memories completely hijacked. She explains that when an individual is affected by the path in this way and has lost their ability to remember, they will experience physical changes such as manifesting the ice we see and slowly turning into nothingness. While it's not unheard of for someone to lose their memories, losing the ability to completely remember is rather unusual. This is what makes Black Swan suspect that some outside influence is at play here, one that is hijacking March's memories for their own purposes. Even among the Garden, there are few who have the ability or power to do this, and as a result, Himeko rightly suspects this to be the work of an emanator. This is when Black Swan reveals why she is really interested in Amphoreus. Black Swan mentions that for some memo keepers of the Garden, Amphoreus is considered to be the perfect example. A world that can be seen only through the Garden's mirror means that memo keepers have the right or ability to keep the world in their private collection and use it for their own purposes, given it functions almost like a blank slate. If those past riders were to uncover the secrets of Amphoreus first, they might unleash their wildest ambitions and even remodel more worlds into a similar form. Black Swan wants to uncover the secret of Amphoreus as a way to foil the plans of these individuals, who are supposedly a sub-faction within the Garden that has immense influence and one she considers to be extremists. They are supposedly so influential that, as Black Swan puts it, has attached themselves to the pinky finger of Fu Li. It is these very extremists that Black Swan suggests are capable of hijacking memories and are likely the culprits behind March's current state. So who exactly are these people? Well, I have two ideas. The first is that it's perhaps the cremators, a sub-faction we know to exist among the Garden. The second is a completely separate group of people but are perhaps among the higher echelons of the Garden's leadership. Let's start off with the cremators first. While we have not directly met them, the cremators have been mentioned several times, such as in the faction's databank and even in Black Swan's own character story. Most that follow the Eon of Remembrance view memories as crucial to existence and maybe even sacred. They believe that each and every memory, regardless of its significance, must be preserved and follow this practice similar to their god. The cremators, however, are a sub-faction of the Garden who for the most part believe the same thing, except for one crucial distinction. They don't believe that every memory is created equal. In their eyes, collecting every unimportant detail only causes strain and unnecessarily burdens their god. The memory of a child catching a beetle, for example, is likely not as important as compared to the memory and life of a famous leader. It is this distinction that has caused some within the Garden to take on an alternative mission. The cremators believe that they hold the sacred duty of filtering memories for the eon they follow. If fully focused only on the most important memories or events, they would then be able to carry out their tasks unburdened. As such, the cremators would gather and even steal the memories collected by the Garden and rank them based on what they feel is the most important. They basically spend their days making memory tier lists. Memories they feel that are S tier are returned to the collection of the Garden, while those they feel are unworthy gets destroyed, which is where they get their name from. Their goal is to functionally clean out memories they deem as useless or unimportant so that Fu Li is unburdened by them. In addition, by doing this, they also ensure the memory garden of Fu Li remains unblemished and untouched by wasteful or pointless memories. The hubris of thinking they know more than a god is pretty funny, but this is what the cremators really believe. Not much is known about them outside the garden, but in an IPC broadcast, they were said to have been responsible for the Holstein aphasia incident. During this event, the cremators were responsible for taking the memories of language from the residents of Holstein and inadvertently removing their ability to produce speech. If you're talking about extremist factions hidden within the garden, the cremators are probably the first thought that comes to anyone's mind. While Black Swan didn't explicitly name them, the cremators are really the only ones mentioned in lore so far that can be categorized as extremists. In addition, Black Swan did also say that March 7th's memory might have gotten hijacked, and given the cremators were able to take language away from an entire system, it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to think that they can achieve this level of memory heist as well. I mean, they are literally stealing memories from the garden all the time. So the cremators could very well be the extremists mentioned by Black Swan. The only problem is that Black Swan also mentions why Amphoreus is important to these extremists in that they view it as a perfect example. She alludes to this faction using it to unleash their wildest ambitions and would likely want to turn other planets into living memories. This doesn't seem like it aligns with the cremators who only want to filter memories and not create new ones. They already view the plethora of information being gathered as a cumbersome problem for Fu Li, so why would they want to make even more things to burden the Eon with? Of course, it could be possible that they instead want to make planets into memories and ultimately destroy them, sort of like preemptively cremating memories before they are made, but even so, something doesn't quite add up. If it was really the cremators, which I'm not saying it isn't, wouldn't Black Swan just say their name? This makes me think that perhaps it could be a different group entirely, one that is part of the higher echelons of the garden and so influential that their name is kept a secret even from the rest of the universe. Now, to be clear, it's not proven anywhere that a different secret faction even exists. As far as the lore is concerned, the cremators are the only ones to have been mentioned in name. However, we have met someone who is technically a memo keeper but behaves unlike your typical remembrance adherent or even a cremator. I'm talking, of course, about Mr. Rekka. If you don't know who that is, it's likely you skipped out on that one fever dream that involved Penacony, a rapping ninja, genius monkeys, and a memory-based banana-themed virus. Yes, that all really happened. Anyways, during this part of the story, we meet an individual who is revealed to be a memo keeper, Mr. Rekka. What makes Rekka different is the way in which he chooses to involve himself in the memories he is witnessing. See, most memo keepers are happy to just observe and remain largely undetected by the larger populations as they collect memories. Rekka, on the other hand, seems to operate completely opposite to this. As the story in Penacony unfolded, he threw himself right in the middle of the story, providing support to both protagonists and antagonists while directly influencing the story. In his view, he wanted to ensure that the best possible outcome would develop and views himself as almost a director of sorts. This means that instead of recording memories as is, Rekka is instead actively changing them to fit what he feels the memory should be. Of course, this could bring up a whole other discussion about whether it's all fated to happen or did Rekka really change the future, but nevertheless, his involvement likely changed things one way or another. If we take Mr. Rekka as a template, perhaps there are others who believes as he does. Maybe among the top dogs of the garden, there sits a group who believes that they have the right and responsibility to dictate how memories should play out. Instead of recording them like the others or filtering them like the cremators, this group wants to create memories of their own. This seems to align quite well with how Black Swan has described the extremist faction. One that wishes to make more worlds like Amphoreus so that they may allow their wildest ambitions to take form. Maybe they even fancy themselves as being on the same level as Fu Li and think they can and should dictate what memories are created and archived. In addition, if such a faction were to exist and they are made up of only the strongest among the garden, hijacking memories would be child's play to them. Their position at the highest ranks also coincides with Black Swan's own comments of how they have attached themselves to the proverbial pinky of Fu Li. In addition, given their influence, this faction may also be the same people who sent a spy to monitor Herta. I mean, who else could have possibly authorized that? So all things considered, it's very possible that a secretive faction of memo keepers exists and are in fact the extremists that Black Swan mentions instead of it being the cremators. If they are as smart and as capable as we are led to believe, perhaps making people think it's the cremators are also part of their plan as well. Now, despite how compelling these ideas might be, the one thing I just don't know yet at this moment is how exactly it ties to March. I mean, beyond the whole memory hijack thing. Whether it's the cremators or the secret faction, all we know is that they might be using March for their own ends, but how exactly, I don't know. Maybe they are using her to secretly monitor Amphoreus, or perhaps they are weaponizing her in some way like she's a one-button memory killer or something, or maybe this is secretly the Enigmata. Plus, we don't even know if what Black Swan claims is even true. She could still be lying here as an attempt to throw suspicion off of herself. My point is, I don't yet have any good guesses on how much factors into all of this, just that according to Black Swan, she is seemingly related to their plan. In addition, while both these ideas are possible, we know little about the garden itself outside of what Black Swan has told us, so there may be more to this than meets the eye. Either way, the fact that some sub-faction of extremist memo keepers might end up becoming the antagonist in the later half of Amphoreus is rather interesting. The garden might have completely tricked us into thinking that they are a bunch of dowdy archivists, when in fact they are as dangerous as any of the other factions. I'm looking forward to see how this unfolds, but for now, I'll end the video here. Do you think Black Swan was talking about the cremators, or could it be some mystery shadow group hiding within the garden? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found the video entertaining, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.